Yes, guys, welcome back to SEE TV. We're back for another episode of the Hot Off the Fresh Show. I've got a brand new guest on the channel for the first time. It's Sam, Spurs for us from Paxton Road TV. How are you?
Very well, thank you, Steve. Very well. How's things?
Good. So obviously, this is sort of relating to a couple of weeks ago. Main topic. Obviously, we all heard about the ridiculous European Super League, which Arsenal, Tottenham, Liverpool, Man City, Man United, and the whole top big six, they called it, were involved. And mainly the instigators were Liverpool, Man United, and Arsenal, being the fact their owners are American. It's sort of an American style system. And obviously, since the fallout from that is potential people coming to buy the club, Arsenal apparently have been linked to this, the owner of Spotify, with a number of Arsenal legends saying they'll help in and try and step in as well. You've had Liverpool's up for have been inquired about how much they would sell it for as well. But for Arsenal, the Kroenkes are standing firm. They don't want to sell Arsenal at any point. So, and then obviously with Spurs, the fallout from that whole Super League is that the manager Jose Mourinho got sacked. I think that was mainly because of the Super League. He didn't agree with it. How do you see that? Do you think that's the case, or do you think it's just the fact of poor performances?
I think it's basically down to poor performances. We have been playing not very good football for quite a while now. Combination of results, combination of players just not performing at a level. Some players not good enough. You know, the manager wasn't able to get the best out of them. It was coming to a bit of a head. The Super League thing, I think, was just almost like a coincidental occurrence that happened. And there was an opportunity, I think, Daniel Levy took to get Jose Mourinho out of the club. But then you get all the hearsay. Was it because he was going to get 350 million so he could pay Jose off? There's all kinds of stories with regards to that. But if you're looking at it just from a Spurs perspective and a fan perspective, well, certainly from my perspective, it was definitely down to results. You could see from that last game against Everton, he'd completely just decided that was it, sat down on the bench, didn't move, didn't say anything to the players, and they were just going through the motion. So, yeah, that was
it. Absolutely. But obviously, first, what you want you to do is hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button. We're now on our way to 1.5k after reaching 1,000 yesterday, and now just need the watch hours, which not many left to go. So to get the watch hours in, so we can monetize the channel for the charity, and obviously go and support Paxton Road TV. Is there another channel that you do as well, or is it just Paxton Road TV?
No, we started off as FTB. We're still associated with FTB Sports. So FTB Sports is our sister channel, I guess. And Paxton Road TV branched off from that, dedicated to all things Spurs. We do preview reaction shows. We have Talking Points as a special magazine show, which we do every week on a Tuesday. We just try and give you as much content with regards to Spurs as possible. So check out Paxton Road TV and also FTB if you want to look for Liverpool, Arsenal, and also I believe we've got Manchester United.
Yeah, so go and check that out if you're any one of those clubs, because I think you'll find great talking points and debates there. So I did watch a bit of it, and it was really, really good. I really enjoyed some of that. So, but yeah, I personally felt when it first came out, I thought it was a reaction to the Super League. Some people were rumoring that the fact he didn't want to take the players to training because of what had been announced the night before. Now, whether that's true or not, we don't know. Probably it will come out about a year or two later.
Yeah.
But it was just strange how you got the manager you brought in was really to try and get a trophy in the cabinet, because you haven't won a trophy for so long, and that's not just me bantering. It's just been on a serious point of view.
It's the truth.
Yeah, it is the truth. But yeah, obviously you wanted to get that winning mentality with that squad, and obviously it was just weird how you've come up 6 days before a final, and then you go and sat the manager who's pretty much got you there. I know the football wasn't great at times, and the football's not been great at all. I mean, Dynamo Zagreb, for example, and other performances have just not been great. But yeah, it just seemed to me a very that's why I felt it had to do. It must have had something to do with the Super League for me, because it just didn't make sense.
It didn't make sense. You're right. There was a lot of things that kind of transpired over that weekend. As I said, the players looked like they weren't giving their all. Jose looked like he'd had enough. He looked like a dead man walking, to use that phrase. The Monday came and it was all things was going off. But there's a lot of rumours going around with regards to the ESL. There was also rumours that if Jose had taken us in the final and won the final, then potentially there would have been a bigger payout for him to receive. There's also the talk about if he was higher up in the league. Again, it's all about league positions, and that's all tied in with his payoff. We will know eventually at some point. I'm sure Jose will come out with something, whether that's a year's time, 18 months' time. I'm sure he's got some form of detail in his contract that doesn't allow him to speak at this moment in time. But I think there was a lot of coincidence. Potentially, it could have been to do with the ESL, whether or not Daniel Levy thought, you know what, I'm going to make this bite the bullet now. I can then pay him off if I have to. But I think he saw an opportunity. The team weren't playing. Looking at the final that we played on Sunday anyway, if Jose was in charge, would we have got better out of the team? Possibly, because it was an awful performance. So, yeah, who better to get us and take us in the final than Jose Mourinho? But unfortunately, he wasn't there. But I don't know if the players would have played any better, shall we say. Maybe have been more organised, but I just think we just didn't play as a team. We weren't good enough.
Yeah, I do feel that in a way, because I did watch some of that game and Man City were battering you, and I'm surprised it was only one goal in it in the end. And the longer it went on, I was like, oh god, I can see what's happening. They'll survive this and win it on penalties.
That's what I was hoping.
That's what I was thinking. I thought, please, Man City, do me a favour, just score a goal. Just score a goal, it'll be done, right? But Brentford, good evening, lads. Karatsuch 1K, thank you very much. But obviously the work does not stop. We kept going as usual, and but yeah, from an Arsenal perspective, I mean, our season's not. Well, you can tell our season's not been great. It's banter FC all season, and after the first North London derby, that's when I was Arteta out, because when I saw them play like that and set up like that, I couldn't stand that. I couldn't stand that from our manager. So for me, that's where I turned to being Arteta out, and just nothing. There's been like the one or two performances, maybe like the first half of Wolves. There's been the Slavia Prague game, but whether that's Slavia Prague playing for a draw and really that backfiring, it just didn't. I've just held no season where at any point we've looked very good in a sense. And yes, we fought our way back up to 10th in the league, but we're struggling to stay above that. And we're struggling to compete with the likes of Everton, Leeds, Aston Villa, who are having great seasons. Yeah, so the chances are, if we're going to get Europe, it's going to be UEFA Conference League. I mean, we got Villarreal this Thursday, but nothing tells me I'm going to sit there and go, oh yeah, we can beat Emery. Oh yeah, we know. Yeah, despite the fact he knows this and he knows our players and everything like that, yeah, we can beat him. It's not a worry. I just think over two legs, Emery's going to get the better of Arteta, because we know what Emery's like in this competition, and obviously I'll mention that in my preview tomorrow. Yeah, to the owners, it just shows again that the owners they've put him in that position first off because it's cheap. It's a cheaper option. Right? There's no other sort of reason behind it, and it's like, well, yeah, okay. It's not really like they've not really sort of made a good enough statement, even in the transfer market or at any point to say, look, we're going to back this guy and we're going to give him this much to try and correct things. Even when we're 16th, they didn't say like, oh, we're going to try and get some loans, get some decent amount of loan signings or some signings in January. They didn't want to do that. And all that time, they were planning this big tournament, European Super League, where as an Arsenal fan, I'm thinking we can't compete with Bayern Munich at the moment anyway. We can't even be in the same tournament as them. So why should we deserve the right to be in there? Like Leicester finished above us for the last 2 seasons.
Yeah.
I mean, if we look for the top in this perspective, what did you make of it?
Banter aside, I think both clubs over the last few years, we had a bit of an upturn when we got Poch in. Obviously, we were finishing in the top four quite regularly. Obviously, Champions League final back in 2019, but things were never really quite there for us in terms of our spending, and I think that goes the same for Arsenal as well. You can see that Mikel Arteta is as a person, great coach. I'm sure he's done wonderful things at City, but has no experience. So a club like Arsenal to go and get someone like Mikel Arteta, he's basically doing work experience. Now, he may be a very good manager down the line. He may well go to another club and do really well. But for Arsenal to have a manager like that with no experience, although he did win the FA Cup and obviously the Charity Shield, or whatever you want to call it now, that was almost like a byproduct of him being there and Arsenal, being in those latter stages of those competitions. Going forward, yeah, no worries. Going forward, I think for Arsenal, pretty much, I think they've got to decide where they want to go. And what I mean by that is, do they want to be a club that just brings in money, as they were doing during the Arsene Wenger days? It was like this consistent top four, which was bringing the revenue, which is why Stan Kroenke and the likes are happy, because Arsenal's still one of the richest clubs in the world. Your success in comparison to ours is there's no comparison. You're much more history in terms of winning league titles, FA Cups, etc., etc. But it seemed that the board had seen the marketability of the club and decided to really push that on at the expense of, I guess, the major trophies, that being the Champions League and also the league. For us, we were trying to aspire to those sort of heights, and we were on that sort of road, but we had no right to be, thinking that we're in the likes of Bayern Munich, Liverpool, Man United. These clubs have got major history and major success in winning trophies. On the other hand, had we not been in it, we would have been left behind. That European Super League would have broken away. All the money would have been there. All the television, all the revenues would have been watching that, and we would have been, slowly and slowly further and further behind. And having spent close to £1 billion on a brand new stadium and having all of that, we needed to be in there to be able to still create that sort of revenue. So it's all about money at the end of the day. That's all it was. It's all down to money.
Well, yeah, I mean, they say they look at their stakeholders. Well, the major stakeholder out of all of this is the fans. I mean, I'm just gonna play a quick clip, and it might just explain it.
Holding this club to ransom. I'm telling you now, because he's sitting there and saying, I'm deciding, I'm doing... Hold on a minute. You are a fucking employee. Remember that. Me, you, every single fan here is more important to Arsenal than Arsene Wenger. Because we, as fans, are the lifeblood of any club. Without fans, you're nothing.
Simple as that. I mean...
Yeah.
And that's what they seem to fail to realize, is that maybe they sort of saw the pandemic and thought, if we're going to be able to if we're going to need to not have fans in the stadium, we're going to need some sort of revenue. And yeah, UEFA and FA, we know how corrupt they are, so they're not out of this completely. But again, like, it just goes against. I mean, Arsenal have always been known as that club of being, they do things in a certain way, and then they have that touch of class about them, and that sort of values. I know the values and that traditions and those standards have been drained away by this owner, bit by bit, and you're still clinging on because you love the club, and you can't get enough of the club. But from what happened there, I was literally thinking of, if I was going to follow football on this channel, it wouldn't be following Arsenal. I'd have to stop. I couldn't support them for it.
Yeah.
I would say, yeah, I was a supporter and I followed them, but I can't support them in that. That's not Arsenal Football Club. And the same with probably Man United, and I think the same with Liverpool, and that's probably why now when you've seen the Arsenal fan base, you've seen it on AFTV, how divided they are, how divided like between Arteta in, Arteta out, or if it was Wenger in back then or Wenger out, or they never came together about the main issue, which was Kroenke. Now they are. You saw that in that protest, and even though some Tottenham fans that went down there.
Yeah.
That's the funny thing. And if you're getting Tottenham fans protesting at an Arsenal protest, then you, as an owner, you'll know you've been in the shit. You've done something seriously wrong. And I feel that's the same. I mean, how do you feel your owners? Do you feel that Daniel Levy should and their owners should be out the door after
It's
this?
a very difficult one for me. The reason I say that is you have to look at it in a couple of ways, and this is how I look at it. Football has been a business now, particularly from the Premier League upwards, in terms of Champions League, feel like for a very long time. Clubs, in order to win the Premier League, you have to spend a lot of money. You can see the likes of Chelsea, the likes of City, in the last few years have been the dominant ones because they spend a load of money. They obviously recoup that money through their owners as well. But football is a business at the end of the day. Not everybody is going to have the ability to win a Champions League or a Premier League. So in order to do that, you have to then invest. The owners, particularly the American owners, are looking at this as a business. They want to maximize profit. So if you can get top four and you can get into the Champions League and you can keep that revenue going, but then to push on to maybe win the Champions League or to win the Premier League, you'd have to then spend upwards of a couple hundred million. Why would you do that? If the fan base are not really crying for it, success. And I mean, what I say by that is you've got some transient fans who just like to watch great games of football. And I've had this debate with a lot of people before. They just like to watch you play the likes of Barcelona, Bayern Munich. They don't really care that you're not going to win that competition. I want to be in a competition if I'm going to win it as a Spurs fan. But there's a lot of people who are happy to see top four, happy to see them play Barcelona, happy to hear the music every week, you know, with the Champions League playing in the background, and see your team play against the best, but not really have a realistic chance of winning it. So the owners have seen that and thought, you know what, we can continue this, and just keep on the money coming in and all the money coming in. It's the hardcore fans that they want to see their team win. And I put myself in that, but I want to see my team win. And like I said, Sunday would have been a great opportunity to win a trophy. As I said, on the other hand, you've got a lot of fans who just want to see good football, but see our team play against the best. What Levy has done over the last 20 years, if you look at the 20 years previous to that, we weren't very good. We did have the FA Cup successes back in the 80s and the odd FA Cup back in the late 80s, and then, you know, the couple of League Cups. But we haven't been a successful team. We're now more consistent over this last period of time. However, as a fan who's wanting their team to be successful, you're going to have to spend some money to keep up with the likes of Chelsea, to keep up with the likes of Man City, to keep up with United and all the rest of them. And we're just not doing that. We had an opportunity to do that when we got to the Champions League final. Poch didn't get backed, and then therefore we're back to where we are now.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think as an Arsenal point of view, I mean, obviously, I watched my team win the title in 2004. And yeah, I mean, and I killed to have that back. To have that feeling back. And I've seen it this season. It's that the amount of times, maybe as an excuse for the manager, is like, well, yeah, the players aren't good enough, or this, or that, or the other, and it comes down to where they say, like, I've had some fans say, well, at least we're in the top half, and I'm like, what?
It's funny, isn't
it? Excuse me. That as an Arsenal fan, you shouldn't be saying these things.
Yeah, I know.
For someone like Arsenal, no one has the God-given right to be up there. Right, you've got to earn your way up there. But for being the third biggest club in England, you shouldn't be setting aspirations of being just making the top half. You should be setting aspirations to at least be in the top four. So you should be questioning your club, saying, why ain't we doing this? Why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we doing that? Why aren't you investing? Why aren't you getting the players we need? Why haven't we got the proper manager? So just a load of other little problems. It's just, I feel with Arsenal, it's just, unless the Kroenkes go, we are not going to win anything. We're not going to win, like, maybe we're not get FA Cup, but we're not going to win anything significant. We're not going to get back to challenging for the league. In fact, the way it's going, that with Arsenal at the minute, if we keep on this trajectory, we'll end up like Leeds and Nottingham Forest, where their mismanagement led to the downfall of their club. They used to be a massive club, and the mismanagement of their club meant they got relegated. I mean, look at where Arsenal was at the start of the season. They were 16th, looking like they couldn't buy a win. So, yeah, I'll bring Charlie in, a Man City fan. How are you?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
I'm not
Charlie?
too bad. But yeah, as obviously a Man City point of view, do you feel, obviously with the title is like, will FSG, KSE, right, all these American owners especially, will they sell their club to a new owner? Do you think Arsenal with this Spotify do you think that he's saying he's got the funds available, he's getting the funds available? Do you think that'll happen, or do you think the Kroenkes will stand firm?
I don't see the Kroenkes selling, to be honest.
Why
Yeah,
would they? Too much money coming in. There's a lot of money. You have to realise Arsenal are one of the most profitable clubs in world football, not just in the Premier, in world football. And if you're making that much money, as I said to you earlier, if you then want to go on to that next level in terms of challenging the likes of Man City or challenging Bayern Munich and Barcelona's and Real Madrid in the Champions League, PSG, they've got money behind them. So you're going to have to spend a lot more just to go up another couple of places, or just to go from a quarter final, round of 16 to a semi-final, not of a guarantee of winning it. So this is where the clubs are almost trying to gamble. Can we get lucky by maybe not appointing a top manager, but getting someone who's got that ability, and maybe he could do it, and we take a bit of a gamble and not buy these players, maybe rely on some of the youngsters, and hopefully, that might work by not spending as much money. And that gamble can pay off. That gamble possibly could pay off. If you look at the likes of, I guess, Leicester's a prime example in terms of a team that got what they got through just being able to just get that bit of luck. That Premier League that season was terrible anyway, but they took advantage of that. But yeah, it's a fine margin between having the security of having all this money coming in, and on the other side the success, and it's balancing that for some of these bigger teams, which is the problem for them.
Yeah, I mean, just a question here actually. Dan E, big up Steve hitting 1K. Yeah, thanks Dan. As usual, you've been a good support of this channel from the beginning. To the Spurs fan on here, we were an embarrassment on Sunday. What's your thoughts on who the next manager should be?
It's a real tough one. We had a show yesterday on Paxton Road TV just to talk about certain managers that we're in the frame for the thing. The problem we've got is we've gone from Poch, who was the up-and-coming manager, had a lot of potential, obviously was doing things at Southampton, and came to us as a bit of a project. He took that project, made it work to a certain degree. Obviously we had the top 4 finishes that we had. We had 2 second places as well in there, a Champions League final in 2019, but he wasn't fully backed. We went to 2 transfer windows without spending any money, never seen before in the Premier League. And he's always said, in order for us to get to that next stage, in order for us to get to the winning stuff, we had to spend money. So we've gone from that to then bringing someone like Jose in, who was almost a guaranteed to success. He's everywhere he's been, he'd won stuff until he came to Spurs. And then what happened with that? We don't win. The crowds are not happy. The players are not happy. Jose did what Jose does, goes in somewhere, causes a lot of problems, disharmony, and usually gets something out of it. didn't in this case. So now we're going to have to think about what we do next. Do we then try to go for another big time manager to then maybe get the success that we got? But if we're not going to back him, that makes no sense. You know, you can't then get someone like, I don't know, an Allegri or an Ancelotti or those sort of managers and expect them to do what they would do if they don't have the money or they don't have the players. And we need a lot of players in. We need a big overhaul. So we're not going to get that unless we spend money. So I think we're going to probably go back again to having maybe a manager that's got the potential. Let's talk about the Ten Hag for Ajax, and there's the manager from Liverpool talking about. But in terms of the Premiership, you know, Brendan Rodgers, you've got Nino Espirito from Wolves. There's a number of managers out there, but again, they're going to have to come in and work with what we've got. And at this moment in time, we don't have enough funds available to go out and spend the money that's required to take us from where we are now to winning titles. But
yeah, because
we could, if we concentrate on maybe win an FA Cup or a League Cup.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I see with Spurs at the minute is you had a squad there that I think you had a couple more additions at some point. It's where like we were challenging in 2015 and 16 and 7 and also 16, 17. We were a couple of players short of winning a title. Say like in 2013, 14 as well. We were a couple of players short. And that's what I felt with Tottenham as well. They had not enough squad depth to be able to keep up the campaign rather than maybe just the mentality side of things. But now I see with Tottenham is that Toby Alderweireld's getting old. Harry Kane's really hitting his prime now and picking up more injuries. Dyer's now appalling. That squad really, it's like what we do at the minute. We buy Gabriel, we buy Partey, and get Willian on a free, but that's putting plasters on a surgical wound. It's not fixing the problem. Naturally, that squad is actually falling apart, and what it needs is a revamp, like a total revamp of the squad. So yeah, I do see obviously with Arsenal there are problems with our squad. I'm not denying that the players are a problem, right? But in the end, you've got to work with basically what you've got, and Arteta doesn't do that. And it's a bit even when you even get your biggest rival saying he's not good enough. I mean, what more convincing do you need?
It's just not experienced enough. He may well be a good manager in 3, 4, 5 years' time when he goes to another club. Maybe he has more money available to spend. Maybe he's got a little bit more, I don't know, the right players. Right support. But at this moment in time, as I said earlier, he's on work experience. He's learning on the job. He's got you guys to a semi-final of the road now.
And that's the thing. Why should the third biggest club in England be training a manager?
Because it's a cheaper option. It's an option that can so they've seen the potential in Arteta. Now there's no denying that he's got potential. He's worked with the likes of Pep Guardiola, you know, so they're thinking, right, this guy's worked along one of the best ever. He's learnt the trade there. Although he's not been in the hot seat, we think we could bring him to Arsenal and, you know, add a couple of players near, bring somebody youth through, and then we're there. It doesn't work like that anymore at the moment. You have to spend big to be able to get your team from that level that we are at, and so I'm talking about Spurs and Arsenal now, to then get to the next level. Example being Liverpool, when they sold Coutinho, they got 150 mil, whatever it was, and they spent it on 2 players, a goalkeeper and a centre back, and that's what they needed. And look where they are now. I know, obviously, not at the best of seasons now, but look what they went on and done over the last 3 years because they spent the money in the right areas.
Yeah,
that's the thing as well. Is everyone goes on actually, and I'll bring Charlie into this because everyone goes about Man City about how much they spend, but it's not so much how they spend. They spend it well because actually we spend more than I think the last 2 transfer windows. We have spent more than actually Man City have.
Spending
we haven't spent
money
it in the right areas.
Spending money don't guarantee success.
That's the thing, and I feel with Arteta, you give him a sort of even if you gave him a blank check, I still feel that when you're keeping players like Xhaka, Holding, Louise, all you're telling me is that you don't know what's good and what's not. But Charlie, I mean that's why I bring you in, because you're a perfect example of how really a club in England at the minute should be run. It's especially if we're not doing this 50+1 system, which a lot of people are. I think there's even a petition going out now
Yeah.
about having a 50+1 system in Germany.
Mm.
And yeah, first of all, that obviously Man City being an example there, and then second of all, would you be in favour of a 50+1 system?
I can see the advantages and the disadvantages of it, really. So, all in all, I'd say there's a positive, but there's some negatives that would happen if it happened.
Yeah, I think that Man City, that's the last thing they need, to be honest.
Yeah.
And that's the thing as well, is that, and this, I don't even see the Glaziers going as well. Either. I'd love to talk
I
Man
don't
U
know.
if you had there 3 years.
I don't know how people think that they're just going to decide. They own the club. Now fans can put as much pressure on they want. They can. The only way they're going to get these guys out is if they stop making the money. So that means that fans are going to have to stop buying merchandise. They're going to have to stop going to games. They're going to have to stop. But as much as that, for one fan on one hand who would stop buying a shirt, there's another fan who will then come in and do that. One fan who might not renew their season ticket, there's a whole waiting list of somebody else who will. Again, it's not just about fans in the UK, it's about fans worldwide. They sell this game worldwide. So in the lights of the Asian market, the African market, American, places like that, unless the whole of the fan base categorically say, we want these owners out and we're not going to spend any money, and they are going to then be in a position where they have to then, think about that financially, nothing's going to change. Because as I said, one person might not buy a season ticket, somebody else will.
But do you feel that this Super League has sort of encouraged that from the fan base worldwide, especially for someone like Arsenal? It's like the third biggest club in England, so the fan base is huge, and it's not saying that everyone else's is not huge. Obviously, there's Tottenham fans around the world. There's Man City fans around the world as well, right? But for someone like Arsenal, literally every place in the world, they would think, if you think of England and football, you'd think the top three clubs in England, which is Liverpool, Man United, then Liverpool, then Arsenal. So that was for Arsenal. It's a lot more difficult because you've got so many people around the world where you need to go. We need you to now stop buying this, doing this, if you want to see your club win the title. And do you feel though that with that Super League and what they tried to do with it, which was despicable? I mean, it was just disgusting. I mean, how they talked about some of the statements they were coming out with, it sounded like they were living on food banks and they were living on the bread line. Right? And I'm like, do you want to swap? Because I'll have your money. I'll have your money straight away. But do you feel that because of this outrage, and this was outrage not just in just English football in England, in the UK, most of the fan bases across the world were despised the idea. Even like the Americans in America didn't like the idea either, because when they're watching football, they like the idea of competition and stuff like not being like NBA and NFL. Which is why when I saw in that protest, like for the Man United one or the Arsenal one or whatever, when they're starting burning American flags, that's disgusting. You should not be doing that. You shouldn't be doing that at all, because there's a lot of fans in America, right? And they want the same as you lot, which is like the club not to be sold on to this European Super League. It's not their fault. These owners are greedy bastards, basically. But anyway, this European Super League outreach will sort of get fans across the world to sort of take action now.
Do you want me to answer first?
Yeah.
No, I don't necessarily. I think at the moment there's been a bit of a groundswell because of the fact that the plans that came out for the ESL weren't right. There is going to be something that happens in the future. There will be some form of breakaway Super League. That's going to happen. They've already talked about revamping it, coming in different ways. They've already talked about the Champions League changing its format, introducing more teams, whatever it is, to create more revenue. There will be something that will happen in the future. What we've got to look at is, and it's been happening for a while, and I always go back to Arsene Wenger because of that. He kind of came out with the phrase that the top four was a trophy. So what he meant by that is being in the position where you get into the Champions League, and being in the Champions League and getting the revenue is almost as important as winning a domestic trophy or winning something. That's where it all went wrong, because now all the fans are looking for, thinking that, we've got the top four. What do you get at the end of the day for top four apart from being in the Champions League and getting more revenue? As I said, if you haven't got a realistic chance of winning that competition, you're just in it to make up the numbers. And yeah, I know we got to a final, but realistically, how many finals do you think we're going to get to? How many times do you think we're going to get to the point where we're winning Champions League like Real Madrid or Man United or those sort of things? We're not. So we got a bit lucky. We got lucky to get to the final anyway. And this whole thing about top four has driven the agenda so that we now look at that being, that's great. And the money comes in and the owners are happy and everybody kind of gets onto that bandwagon. It's going to take so much to change that thinking. But because this European Super League came up and fans who saw the format and the pyramid system being affected by that, everybody was up in arms. And that was the part which was not good. But as I said, had they been allowed to maybe discuss that a bit more, maybe come back with another option, who knows? Some people might have thought, it's a bit more palatable. But it just got to the point where it all happened so quickly, and these teams decided that they were going to make this decision based on themselves and not really talk to or discuss with anybody else. I think that's what the uproar was for. But mark my words, I think in a few years' time, maybe not even a few years' time, there will be another idea that comes up onto the table. They might just think about it a little bit more before they deliver it.
Yeah. Just go through some of the comments. Sadly, that won't ever happen again. Arsenal will someone that will do what Wenger did. Well, yeah. Wins everything for 10 years and then leave us in a mess. To be there, and what wows me up about Wenger, he's now coming out and saying this is wrong, this is that. Well, I'm sorry, mate. You were part of the bloody problem because you acted as a shield for this lot, right? You took all the flack. You didn't ever direct it at like the Kroenkes are not backing me, they're not doing this or that. You accepted the fact that top four is good enough, right, for the money to come in for the Kroenkes. Right, and you only don't start getting on your high horse saying, "Right, I'll happily help the club and be saved." I'm sorry, you really helped Stan Kroenke. Not you chose Stan Kroenke instead of the club, right? You that's what you did. You didn't, instead of just saying, "No, I'm done, I'm out." Right, you decided to help this agenda of top four and everything and the revenue and pleasing Stan, right? To where we are now, and now we're in a mess, right? And we are literally in such a mess that we can't get out of. And well, I'll tell you what, George Graham would have never done it. Tell you that. People go on. I'll tell you what, people go on about like he's the greatest ever manager. Well, I'm sorry, great managers don't do that to their football clubs. Right? It's as simple as that. Man City have great owners besides the Super League fiasco that they have run that football club with the fans' happiness in their minds. My club are owners. My club are owners in it are money grabbing scumbags. Yeah, it's you never burn nation flag. Yeah, you don't, and that's the end of it. talks about Kane been leaving Tottenham at the end of the season. Will he go to Man United? Big up Stephen and Charlie. So do you think Kane will go to Man United? And I'll ask you first, Sam, and I'll ask Torman you.
Not a chance. I don't believe there's a chance. Well, I say not a chance. It's obvious a chance, a very slim chance. The reason I say a slim chance is Kane is contracted to us, I believe, till 2024. It is going to take quite a bit to get him out of the club in terms of money. So Daniel Levy does hold the cards in a sense where he can demand the right amount. I don't think he'd want to sell him to somebody in the Premier League. That's one thing I think. If Kane is going to go anywhere, I believe it's going to be abroad. It could be to PSG. It could be to Real Madrid. You know, even the likes of Bayern Munich, because obviously they've got Lewandowski who's aging, but he's still obviously knocking in the goals.
Yeah, he's not as stupid as Wenger with Van Persie.
I just can't see him going to Man United because of the legacy that he would burn. He would literally tear up all that he's done, coming from our academy, doing what he's doing, potentially going to break Jimmy Hughes' goal scoring record, has the potential to be England's goal scoring record. You know, could go on if fit to maybe to challenge the Alan Shearer. But I think more importantly, as a Spurs fan, as a Spurs player who's come up all the way through the system, that would really be a massive, massive kick in the teeth to us fans. And I don't know if he's the sort of person that would necessarily do that. Now, I can't blame him if he wants to go, but I can't see him, one, being allowed to go to another Premiership. And again, just seeing him in a red shirt for Man United, that just would be weird. It would be so weird. I don't think I could deal with it, to be honest.
Talkman, you. I was the same question to you, and then obviously we're going to ask about the Glaziers. So go on, mate.
Hello, Sam. I've seen you on the channel before, mate. Welcome.
How you doing? You all right?
Yeah, good, mate. Good. I think in terms of Paddy Kane, I mean, I'd like to see him in a red shirt. But I agree with you, mate. I think it's just.
I bet you would.
Yeah, there's too many things to go against that move taking place, I think, and because as well, you know, we're going all out to go try and get Haaland alongside Chelsea and Man City. So, you know, when you're like probably best striker in England at the moment, and then you've got a club who's going for the best striker in Europe first, and then you're like kind of second, you know, playing second fiddle to that. I mean, you know, that's not a good place to be, is it? You know, Harry Kane doesn't want to be seen as like second choice to any club. You know, if he's going to get his head turned, it's going to be because a club comes in for it and says, look, we don't want anybody else, we want you because we think you're the best and you're exactly what we need. So I agree with you on that one. I don't think that will happen. In terms of the Glazers, I mean, you know what? We have to remember that, you know, football is now an attractant to businessmen because it generates so much money. You know, we generate so much money in our league, in our game, and businessmen are attracted to that because, especially the sport minded businessmen. And I think that's what Sam was saying about at some point it's going to change the league. I mean, I see where he's coming from with that, but I'm just trying to think. I mean, where could it go? I can't see the logistics of a European based Super League for me don't work anyway because, like I said the other day, you would need 2 full squads. Each team will need 2 full squads.
Yeah, that's the idea. That's why they gave him so much money.
But this where FIFA went with the FFP and where does the revenue come from to build those 2 squads? But
the thing is, they've got what gave them also the impetus as well is that you may not notice FFP's been cancelled now.
Yeah, I know that. But where does the
taken away? That's what gave the opportunity as well.
Yeah, but where does the income come from to build? Like Manchester City, for example, they've probably, you know, they're not far off 2 squads. Let's have that right. But let's say Leicester City, for example, or West Ham, if they finish up in the top 4, you know, and in a season where this is going to happen, they haven't got a second squad that they're going to be able to play Premier League, FA Cup, Champions League, or Europa League, you know, and then a Super League. Where does the
Super League is supposed to replace it.
Yeah, I know
The
that. But this
European
is what I'm
Super
saying.
League was
They'll
just
never
replace the
replace.
Champions League and Europa League.
No,
That was the
you
idea.
won't ever replace that. That won't get replaced because FIFA and UEFA and the sponsors.
That was the point. That's why UEFA were going to ban them from their tournaments. They were going to say they were going to replace it.
And that's what was. Yeah, I know that. But what I'm saying is they'll never replace that. The only way they'll replace that is by going off on their own. But it's been quite
That's what we're
clear that
doing.
we're not. No, but we're not going to have that as fans. Neither as the Premier League. They cannot afford. The owners of these clubs cannot afford to leave the Premier League for the income that generates. Right, upset the fan base massively and lose lots of fans, and then go off into some crazy league.
I think they can, you know. I honestly do believe that this will happen at some point, and the reason being the sums of money that they were talking about, these teams were going to share something like £10 billion or 10 billion euros initially, which meant
we're talking about money that's more money than F1's got.
Oh, just in terms of joining, this is not about anything about the competition. So just to join this, they were going to get something like 350 million euros each just to join. Then after that, the revenue and all the sponsorship that come with it, they were going to generate loads and loads of money. They could then afford to say to the Premier League, see you later. The fans are what stopped this whole thing. Had there not been such a fuss through Sky and through some of the Gary Neville comments and Jeremy Carragher, and then the upswell of the fans saying, no, it's not right. And it had gone ahead.
A couple of managers, a couple of players pointed out as well.
Yeah, and the players coming out and saying things. Then I think it would have gone ahead, and you probably would have seen the death of the Champions League. The Premier League would have continued, but the teams that would have been left, they need those 6 teams that would have gone. So it would have been like, I guess it's the equivalent of the Premier League and the Championship. You know, there's a big division in terms of the quality. There's a big division in terms of the money that's then generated in those 2 leagues, and they would have just gone away and taken all the money every single year. It wouldn't be right for the competition. I agree with you, but I think it's still going to happen.
The thing is as well. The thing is as well is that they have squads to play both. The idea was to play squads in the Premier League and the Super League, but because they got massive super squads, they play all their big guns in the Super League, and they play all the rest of them in the Premier League. Basically, acting like it's the Carabao Premier League, right? Like they do with the Carabao Cup. So basically, then everyone will want to go watch the Super League because that's where the best players are. So everyone goes watch that. So they don't watch the Premier League, and then there's no money from these big clubs being generated to the Premier League. That then the Premier League can then bring that money down the system. And if you ain't got that money coming down the system, you got teams like League 2 teams, League 1 teams. They start going bust because they haven't got the finances. They haven't got the financial support.
There's no guarantee that this kind of league would actually even have any longevity either, because if these teams were to go and do that, right, and whatever companies are streaming the games and all the rest of it, I mean, the UEFA, FIFA, and the Premier League are going to be like, yeah, wait a minute, we're short now of 6 clubs who were, or whatever it is, whatever number of clubs in these competitions. What do we do? It's simple. With the backing of Sky and the backing of any other remaining backers who give the money into that, they push that money back down because it's taken away from them teams. They push it down to teams next in line and say, yeah, massive cash injections to these other clubs lower down the leagues, and the whole pyramid gets pushed up. Then it gets back to where it was because you're getting clubs with money.
Potentially. Can I just add a little bit on this? So what happens at the moment in terms of when we watch the Champions League and the Premier League is you've got 2 big corporations, media giants in BT and Sky. So they obviously have the rights to show these games. They generate a lot of money from people paying their subscription. I pay upwards of £100 a month just to have Sky and BT and all the rest of it. So if someone like Amazon had come in and said, right, we're going to have the rights because they've got masses of money. They can say, we're going to have extreme rights to sell you this European Super League. What do you think is going to happen to Sky and BT? Their subscriptions are going to go down because people are going to say, hold on a minute, I'm not paying Sky, BT, and Amazon. I'm just going to pay Amazon because I want to see the best teams play the best teams. That means their money would have suffered. So that's the reason why you saw Sky do a massive, right, we can't have this, because they weren't involved in it. Had they been involved in these negotiations and maybe been told that they could be part of it and part of the media corporation that was going to be showing these games, I don't think we would have seen as much of a problem from them. But I think that a big player like Amazon could have potentially, and I'm only surmising it, they could have come in and said, right, we'll do all this. People come across, pay your $9.99, or it's part of your Amazon Prime. How many people to pay? I think it would have been a massive thing to happen.
I think it was not just Amazon Prime. You had Disney Plus were offering it as well. So
Well, I mean,
the
even
amount
so,
of
I
streaming,
still think
but the amount of streaming platforms you got these days, it's not difficult to do. They've got the
the
technology.
the brand of the UEFA badge, the branding of that, the brand of the UEFA Champions League, the UEFA Europa League, the Premier League, they're we know that they're massive selling points. And again, that's where I believe that they would have just gone, okay, they may have had to take a hit short term, but there would be, as one leaves, as we know, there's always somebody else to step in who's got money to, I mean, and even let's just look at it from this angle. The Premier League, if they so wished, along with UEFA, could say, you know what, okay, we're going to create our own streaming service here, and we take all the money. We're going to create our own streaming service around this, and FIFA and UEFA have got loads of money they can push down. Like I said, 2 other clubs to bring this back to some kind of equilibrium, shall we say? So when I say lesser clubs, I don't mean it in that way. I'm not disrespectful to clubs like that, but I mean your lower clubs down the leagues who then get pushed up. I hear that talk. But West Ham, Everton. One sec. That when they get pushed up and there's massive cash injections, that is then to the club to say, look, this is to build up your squads now, because you're going to be the ones now that are going to be the teams in the English game. Whereas these other teams who've left,
Yeah, but talk. The problem is though, is that if they're not going to be generating the same amount of money that the Super League is going to be generating.
But they will, though. No. That's what I've just said.
That's what it worked out. That's why they were all panicking.
Hold on.
Right?
No. Hold on. One second. Listen, this Super League, right? It's like, yeah, okay. So you got all these teams going there, but it's a closed league. It's like this. It's like watching. I don't know. You're watching the same however many clubs week in, week out, no relegation or promotion. To me, I'm thinking I'd watch it for like the first season, but after that, you're like, well, because you know who's going to then win it, don't you? The ones who spend the most money on the players and all the rest of it. So it's always going to be Barcelona, Real Madrid, and maybe Manchester City with Pep Guardiola as their manager. It's going to be them 3, really.
It was interesting because there was some talk within some of the things that they said in the Super League that they were going to introduce another 5 teams, and there was going to be ways that teams could be promoted to it. There was going to be the core teams that would remain in there. I think that was a fact, but there was an opportunity for other teams to maybe join it, and there was going to be somewhere. I don't know.
There was 15. There was 15 teams that would be founding clubs, and the other 5 clubs will be promoted depending on their success in their league. Correct. So it could be 1 from Spain, 1 from Italy, 1 from France, 1 from Germany, and 1 from
the UK,
England, and the UK. But like I said, the problem is that the amount of money that we're talking about, the FA, even the FA and UEFA were looking at, we can't compete with that.
They could never compete with it.
And couldn't compete with it. Not especially if they've got to look after not just these. They've got to look after these 15 clubs, right? The FA and UEFA have got to look over about 28 over associations. Plus,
Stephen,
you've got all the clubs in there.
What's
all the clubs in the pyramid.
What's the spice of life? It's variety, and
I get that, but it's not money.
If you go into it, listen. I'm telling you now. There's no way this Super League would have done what he done. It's like it starts off. These companies pump loads of money in, for a short space of time. It's like, oh yeah, this is great, but there's no way that the brand, like I say, of UEFA and the Premier League, with money initially pumped in and pushed down to push clubs back up. So you push money down and the clubs come up and get better. They attract better players because they got money for bigger wages. They can spend bigger transfer fees and all the rest of it. They can start to attract the bigger names.
Can I just make a point on that? Because you've got some good points on that, and I've got to shoot in a minute. So I just wanted to make a little point for it. That is a good point about bringing some of the teams up, but then you've got to balance up the fact of, okay, so if you've got the choice of watching and no disrespect to the teams, I'm just going to say names, no disrespect to them. You've got the likes of Burnley versus Sheffield United, but on Amazon Prime, you've got Manchester United versus Real Madrid or Barcelona versus Arsenal.
Yeah.
What are you going to watch? Regardless of whether you think the competition is better, what are you going to watch? So therefore, if the money's not going to come in consistently, those teams will have to then cut their cloth accordingly. They will have to spend less money because they're just not getting the same amount of revenue as those other clubs in the European Super League. So what happens is the drop-off will be happening because they can't pay the same wages. The player quality is going to drop. So then the gap just becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. And those teams, you're right in what you're saying, they would have been off and it might have been, it's getting a little bit boring, but they wouldn't care. They'd find some way of then changing that format. They might then say, okay, we'll bring in a couple more teams. We'll do this, we'll do that. But it would have just meant the global take on this would have been so huge that people just weren't going to tune in to watch them Premier League. I don't believe anyway. It might be.
Yeah, no, I agree. And you know what? We have to look at this as well. Do you not think that what's going on here is the planting of a seed?
I
agree. If you take a step back and look what's going to happen, what's happened here, they've planted a seed. Perez and everybody else and all the clubs, they've pushed that seed into the ground, right? Everybody's gone, no, we're not having it. But you know what? And now when you look at it from afar, when you take all these sort of differences of opinion and the money side of things into consideration, this could actually, if this takes root, then yeah, maybe you're right. You know, maybe we could actually see the support even from maybe even FIFA itself and UEFA may have to lean, if they do the maths and go, you know what, what's going to happen with this? If they start speaking to sponsors, broadcasters and everything else and start doing their sums forecasting future-wise, and then they go, oh, crap, shit.
Yeah. I think that's happened.
Right.
I really do believe that you said, you've hit the nail on the head. The seed's been planted. They're now, FIFA and UEFA are going to have to think, we don't want this to happen again. What can we do to make sure everybody stays with us? So those negotiations are probably happening. But as well as that, I think there's still negotiations with those big teams potentially thinking to ourselves, we just want to maximize as much money as we can. So there is going to be changes. I just don't know what changes there's going to be. Guys, I'm really sorry, but I've got another pod I've got to do. So I've got to shoot. But I'll definitely want to be back on again to come on and do another show.
Definitely. And let us know if you ever need us to come on as well.
Oh, brilliant. No problems. Definitely.
All right.
Thank you very much for having me on.
Cheers for coming.
Cheers. Thank you.
All right. See you guys.
That was very interesting. I agree. You know, we're in maybe we're on borrowed time in this format that we're in at the moment with the Premier League, the UEFA Champions League, unless if FIFA and UEFA can actually now come up with something of their own. This new format for the Champions League is obviously a start, but they need to consider, for me, if they were to now reconsider what they're doing with the Europa League and the funding involved around that and the prize money and everything else.
Just the prize money in general.
That could maybe make a sticking point for the idea of the Super League. That's what they have to do now. If they want to keep their brand, they've got to oppose it by coming up with something, an idea that is almost similar.
I get that. To what you saw the prize money. If you saw the prize money in Super League, even if you're like second, third, fourth place or something like that, the money compared to what you'll get in the Champions League, the Champions League could not compete, right? So that's why they're tempted to do that. Now, obviously, we've still got Perez saying that, like, this ain't dead. Oh, you, this contract, you're signed to it. You've got to do this. You've got to do that. To be honest, mate, right? Like, Perez, fuck you. I don't have to pay your debts, thank you. Right? If you can't run a club properly, that's your problem. It's just, I don't see why the other clubs have to sort your mess up because you've had to create a Super League because you've put your club in £800 million of debt and Barcelona in £1 billion of debt. So, of course, they're still in it because they need it. They've got no choice. Whereas, I feel with our.
The thing here is also, you know, you got to think about: is it possible for these clubs, and you know, whoever it is that sort of heads the league up, can they create their own laws? Because if not, it's all right being in so much debt now. Imagine how much debt they would be in if this all goes south on them and they start paying ridiculous amounts of wages. Like I mean, I said it. You know, we had the first £1 million player, you know, in Trevor Francis back in whatever day, and it's not going to be long before we have the first £1 billion player. The way things are going, this is what you're talking about with this kind of league, is outbidding each other. What all this money's there, you know. It's like, oh, all right, we're getting 3 billion this season. What shit? Right, bang. How much? Right, I want Neymar. No, we want Neymar. How much are you going to pay for him? You know, all right, we'll pay 200 million. No, 3, 4, 5, 6. Where does it end? It's crazy. There would have to be some serious caps in their own rules in terms of transfer fees and wages. And also, don't forget, one thing's for sure, the agents, the football agents, like Mino, Riola, and the rest of them would have been rubbing their hands together at the thought of this.
Well, that's the point.
They would have been like,
the FFP was supposed to stop that, but UEFA didn't fucking implement it.
But you know what I mean? I mean, Sam, you know, I didn't catch all the streams, so I didn't know what was said beforehand. But no, you know what? I'd like to have a conversation again with them about this and you two at another point, and anybody else, because it's quite an in-depth. There's so many angles to look at it from, because you know
there is, and there's just so many issues to point out with it.
Well, yeah, but this is the thing: if you can kind of get ahead of the game now and trying to work out all the permutations of what the pros and what the cons are, then you know you're gonna have a lot of good things to pass on to people who may not have been able to sort of go down that line of thinking, you know, and look tearing it apart piece by piece.
Yeah, I mean, you'll tear it piece by piece and look at what the real source of it is to then find out what the best solution is. And I just feel with us, it just UEFA now needs to start really it's sort of a wake up call for them to start like it could be also just a major negotiation tactic as well. If you look at it, it could be also that, because now UEFA are sitting there shit, we got to pay them more, because if we don't, they'll fuck off. So so if they so they will want them to pay more to just say, yeah, okay, here's the extra funding you need. Real Madrid's probably is beyond reproach, same as Barcelona, but the other clubs that are probably in financial straits, yeah, probably. But the thing is that the reason I'd say that the English clubs are not in that sort of problem is because if you go around the world and you'd ask what league you'd watch, how many people in the world would say the Premier League?
Loads.
Everyone will say they'll watch the Premier League first, because the Premier League's the most competitive. I'm not saying the others are competitive, but it's the most physical, demanding, and competitive league.
But also,
in the world.
Look at it this way: governments. Look at the governments, right, of the countries that this is happening in. Do you think that they're going to firstly allow this to happen in a way that they can just create their own laws and do what they want? No, that ain't going to happen.
The UK government was trying to step in.
Hold on. Yeah, hold on. And then secondly, okay, listen, you've just been given for, let's just say, 3 or 4 billion each club, apparently, right? It's like, whoa, okay then. Well, where's that? We want our slice of that. Government taxes. We want our slice of that. Don't forget the taxes of this. Now you can't have, you know, if this goes out, if this was to happen and it just got like some kind of fantasy, a real fantasy, let me say that, because it would be a real fantasy.
So just answer this. Yeah, they do get different prize money, but it's not a lot. It's not.
You know, you're talking much. Like ridiculous of transfer fees, like bidding, like for ridiculous monies, wages, and then you know what?
Yeah,
If
some of the players
didn't work
and
for him,
some of the players and the agents are sitting there.
serious
Yeah, go on. Some of the players and the agents will be like, yeah, okay, I'll get paid loads of money.
No. Of course they are. Of course they are. But again, it's clubs themselves that are going to put their whole existence on the line if this doesn't work and it goes south. Because you give this is not going to be a case of like we're going to give you 4 billion and you can just go and put it in your bank and keep it forever and a day. There's going to be contracts involved. A case of look, if we don't hit certain numbers in terms of viewing and taking up of the streaming service subscriptions and all the rest of it, then we're going to have to take some of that money back, if not all. So where does that leave the clubs if they overspend and overreach? They're already in
the thing.
this.
Yeah, I mean,
let me just say this. 1 second. Let me just say this before I finish. Surely, Real Madrid and Barcelona, in the normal league that you're in now, have already got themselves into shitloads of trouble, even with being so successful as they have. Where the fuck are they going to go in this new Super League with even more money? They're going to be done, mate. They'll go out of existence. They will go out of existence if this all goes south on them. Simple.
Here's the thing as well. If you're talking about, there's one thing in business, right? You talk about money like that and it goes wrong, it fucking goes wrong. Like,
yeah, of course it does.
Right? If the more risks, the amount, if you're talking about that sort of money, you're talking a serious amount of risk, right? Because if that goes wrong, right, and the money ain't there, you're fucked. That's literally what happened with it. Say if it all went south and they lost all that money, that'll be Arsenal finished, Man United finished, Liverpool finished, Chelsea.
Yeah, because no one's going to be able to buy them with all that debt attached to them.
Yeah, and they'll have to start all the way back down in the bottom of like the very bottom of the pyramid and work all the way back up again.
And I reckon as well, mate,
under a new name, under ownership.
If this was actually to happen properly, right? I don't think you would be talking the kind of money that they're talking about for at least for the first sort of maybe 5 years or so, because they're not just gonna on a whim and an expectation that everybody's going to take up on it and pay their subscription fees, unless the only way it would be, in my opinion, worth for me to say, oh, yeah, all right, then I'll pay. If it was like $4.99 a month,
yeah,
or something, I'd be like, okay, then, yeah, I'll have a bit of that. Won't pay no more than that though, alongside what I'm already paying. No chance.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, Danny, yeah, if like Spurs fans are going to this protest, go. Like, go to the protest and get your owner out, because otherwise it's not going to change. It's not going to change, mate. Right? And he's not going to give you the investment you need to go and like challenge for anything. Right? Especially if you need a revamp of the squad. It's called merit. Yeah, of course. Are you streaming that? Yeah, I am. I'm gonna stream that game as well. So, but I mean, yeah, I mean, we could go on forever probably about it, but I'm even made right in the head. But in the end, do you think FSG, KSE, or the Glaziers will sell?
I don't know. It's a maths thing. This for the owners, they've got to look at look, having pushed for the Super League, they're going to now wait and see. You squeeze the sponge, you see how much comes out of it. That's what they're going to do now. They've squeezed the sponge. They're going to wait to see how much more they can get. If that doesn't balance up with the costs of retaining the chase, shall we say, of being, for the top players, for the big wages, all the rest of it, then they're going to say, you know what, if they're only going to earn like clear profit, like, I don't know, 10 plus million or something, 20 million. They're going to go, nah, this isn't worth it to us. The billionaires talking about here, that's no good to them. The cost to success ratio is getting a bit, it's losing its luster. You know what I mean? If it costs 100 million plus or 200 million to get your team enough, and even then, it's not guaranteed. It's not guaranteed. If somebody goes in and gives, like Pep Guardiola, the owners there, give Pep Guardiola 300 million quid and says, go out and buy a load of players, it's not guaranteed that Pep's going to go out and do the double or the treble or something.
Of course not.
No chance. Not for any club.
We know that in football.
This is, I know, and this is why I do believe it. It's once they do the numbers, if somebody comes in with it, like the Kroenkes, for example, they're saying that they're committed, blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, who thinks they're going to get Arsenal Football Club, third biggest club in England, in English football history, for 1.8 billion? Don't talk out your ass, mate. You want a clown. Who is this guy?
1.8 billion. 2.8 billion.
No, it was 1.8 he'd offered.
It's 2.
No, it wasn't. I read it, mate. I read it. It was 1.8.
Well, it was 2.
It was 1.8 billion. I seen it on the news.
Well, I swear it was 2 because Osmanov offered him 2 billion before, and he said no.
Osmanov, when was that? Not recently.
That was when Usmanov still had shares in the club.
Yeah, but listen, this is the thing: is if you look at Manchester United, right? If they're supposedly worth 4 billion, right? Where does that put everybody else? Below them, below. So Arsenal have got to be worth at least 2.5. Liverpool have got to be worth at least sort of 3. Man City, I don't know about Man City, to be fair with you. I think they might be sort of around the 2 billion because simply because they haven't got the fan base yet in Europe, which they're thriving. This is what they're craving for, and this is why tonight is so important for them, because they need that win in the Champions League, more than one, in order to gain that fan base and that the notoriety of like, whoa, right now you're in with the big boys, son, you know. So if someone's going to try and take that business from the Kroenkes, they're going to be wanting at least 3.5 bill because of the potential earnings going forward. You know, look, we're going to lose X, Y, and Z. You know, they're going to want crazy money. So this guy, he's coming with that.
They said they wanted about 2.8 billion.
Well, the first one I seen was 1.8, and I was like, "What? Are you crazy?" This Eck fella. And at the end of the day, it's a dangerous game, Stephen, because where does it's all right coming up with that kind of money, but do these people actually realise what is happening to football with FFP out of the window? I mean, what you're going to come in and spend all this money to buy the club, and then to do what with it exactly? Where does the 250 million come from in the next 3 seasons to buy the newest talent, like that wonder kid from Fluminense, for example? You know, I can't remember his name. Where does the 250 million quid signing fee come for that? Transfer fee come for him if you want the best, and all the other youngsters around that. It's crazy, mate. These people have to think about this seriously and seriously consider what they're getting themselves into, because you know what? And also, it's true what they say, be careful what you wish for. Because if somebody comes in, buys this club, gives the Kroenkes 3 billion, they go off into the sunset, and then they realise that, wait a minute, boom, 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 Arsenal just boom, 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 go tumbling down the league, eventually get relegated. Where are you then, mate? You're in all kinds of shit. So be careful what you wish for. This can only happen if it happens with seriously rich owners. And I don't think this Eck guy has got the kind of money that we're talking about, because he's had to obviously go to ask other people. So, you know what? It's just, I know Eck is serious.
I don't get it. Might be serious though. Is that you could be the serious man in the world. If you ain't got fucking money, then what's the point?
It's like me saying, you know what? I've just come into 200 grand, and all my mates drive Bentleys. I'm going to get myself a Bentley. What do you do for a job, mate? Oh, I work at the local supermarket. I'm on just above national minimum wage. All right, okay then. So you're going to buy the Bentley for 160 grand. So that's going to leave you 40 grand. Okay, what are you going to do with that? Well, I'll tell you what you're going to do with that. You're going to use most of that over the first 18 months to 2 years of you owning that vehicle in upkeep and repairs and running and insurance. And then where's the money going to come from then when you're just relying on your wages? Forget it. I've seen it happen, mate. I've seen idiots buy cars, right, and they can't afford to run it. And the same goes for football.
I get where you're coming from.
We need for United, right? Let me say this: for Manchester United, we need like the Qataris. The Qatari royal family need to buy United. They've got endless pockets, mate. It's like the owners of Manchester City.
Yeah,
can just
I know the owners you're on about. Yeah.
So I would be careful, mate, Stephen. You don't want to be in a position.
I already said I was on Turkish. I super chatted on Turkish's channel. So we got to be careful about who we buy and who we get. So yeah, I'll tell you what,
Danny makes a good point here. This Daniel is using Arsenal to get even more attraction to Spotify.
Yeah, I know that. I know that because have you seen the Spotify shares?
Yeah, they'll go rocketing.
They've skyrocketed.
Yeah, it's clever, really.
Since he come up with that tweet, the share price has gone mad. I bet you, right, when it comes to push comes to shove, he'll back out.
Of course he will.
Once he's had his way, right, and it's gone up to a certain point, and he can't get any higher, he'll pull out.
2.5 billion just to buy the club, right? Okay, and when how are you going to?
Yeah, I get where you're coming from.
It's over for them.
FSG to shut up now. It's all over. You're welcome. Yeah, but again, it's finding the buyer. You got to find someone that apparently wants to buy it for $3 billion. Like, good luck to Charlie though. He has financial back for his. Yeah, good.
Whoa! Wait a minute. If that's true, if you're talking Zuckerberg and Google alongside Eck, then it can happen without a care in the world.
Because they haven't mentioned that at all.
Well, no, I mean, that's what I'm saying.
All the reports haven't mentioned Google alongside them.
No.
So
it's like if what's his name?
Until it says him along with Google and Zuckerberg, I'm not going to believe it.
No. It's like Bezos. If Jeff Bezos wanted to buy Man United,
to buy it for the long run. Well, come out with a billionaire. Come out in their name.
Yeah, but they're going to have to put in stupid amounts of money.
Yeah, but that's the thing.
Without a return.
Yeah, you're going to have to. I mean, look at our squad. The amount of money we've got to spend on our squad just on that.
Look, hold on. This is for the love of the club and the game, not for the want of a return. Because for the amount of money you need to put in, you ain't getting a return on it.
That's the thing. So it needs to be right for someone who actually is willing to do that for the club. But I'm just I know this. Well, until it says they're going to do it together, I'm not really worried about it, to be honest, because I don't think it'll be good enough. But anyway, I'm going to have to wrap this up anyway. So will any of them sell? Probably not. But at least all you think that we can do is keep protesting. So all Arsenal fans, right? Another protest on the 2nd, again outside the Emirates. Might do a reaction video to that. Maybe if someone's there, might be able to get him on live. But I don't know. We'll wait and see. But 50 plus 1 or a new owner. 50 plus 1 as well. But remember FSG. FSG off. No, they're not.
They're miles better than both of them.
No, they're not. You've won a Champions League. You've won a Champions League and a Premier League title. What have we won under Kroenkes?
On the back.
10th place.
Yeah. Right, I've got to go now.
No.
I'll see you for the watch along, mate.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap it up there before I go on a rant about that one. Anyway, big up to everyone in the chat as usual. We're back for the watch along for Man City versus no, they're not. The Kroenkes are far worse. Trust me. Right. Anyway, right. Maybe we should do a tier maker on it. But there you go. Who are the worst? But anyway, do smash a like on the video. Do hit the subscribe button if you are new. Do hit the share button. Share it as well. Do you think this? I'm trying to wrap this up, man. Right? In England, maybe if they implement it, but it works in Germany, so I can't see why it shouldn't work in here. But there you go. But anyway, thanks for everyone that's tuned in. Make sure to smash a like. Make sure to subscribe if you're new. Share the channel and the content, and get everyone else to subscribe. On our way now to 1.5k now, so go and do that now. So yeah, until then, everyone stay safe, stay well. We will be back with the watch along this evening. Take care.